The US state of Florida calls itself the Sunshine State, but also seems to boast a chilling dark underside. Rife with urban myths, eerie tales, and all too real horror stories, it is seen by some as the scariest state. Number 6. The Dead Zone. Florida's Dead Zone is not just a traffic accident hotspot. Its location is in an area where the Mayaca tribe of the region expired due to diseases introduced during the Spanish occupation. Indentured servants and slaves were brought in to work till they dropped on orange plantations. Swedish attempts at settlement ended with a large fire, and a later German community succumbed to yellow fever outbreak. This dark history has resulted in an epidemic of ghost sightings over decades. The Dead Zone, where most traffic fatalities occur, is a part of the Interstate 4 highway, where it decided to fill in many graves discovered during its construction. It is reputed to be a place where cell phones, radios, and even CBs dramatically stop working, or are often interrupted by static and the voices of laughing children. Other paranormal phenomena include phantom cars and trucks, which are seen briefly before vanishing, fogs that suddenly appear without warning, ghost hitchhikers, orbs floating across the road, and freezing cold stretches despite hot temperatures. There is a history of hurricanes that trigger graveyard hauntings, or strangely follow an identical path of destruction with previous hurricanes directly above those graves. Number 5. Crescent State Historic Site. During the 1870s, former Union Army medico Dr. Cyrus Teed awoke after an electric shock, believing himself to be humanity's messiah. He changed his name to Koresh, its Hebrew version, and in 1878 led a group of his followers from New York down to Estero in Florida to establish his own religious community. At its height between 1903 and 1908, the group ran a thriving colony with over 250 residents. After Teed's passing in 1908, his followers stayed by his bedside for days, fruitlessly waiting for him to resurrect. Just as strangely, in 1921, a hurricane destroyed his tomb and swept his coffin out to sea. The area is now the Crescent State Historic Site, and according to many locals and tourists, still harbours Teed's spirit and those of his followers. Campers report strange winds sweeping through the site, seeming to intentionally destroy their tents. Others are often witness to disembodied voices and unnatural shadows inside or near the park. Ever since the fatal poisoning of a small girl there in the 1990s, many female visitors to the park report unexplained bouts of sore throat. Number 4. The Deering Estate. The estate is now a mecca for paranormal investigators. During the 1920s, affluent Chicago businessman Charles Deering established his dream mansion in a spot known as Miami Rock Ridge, a site of Native American settlement over millennia. Its current hauntings purportedly began when construction companies started to disturb some Native American burial grounds. In 2009, Colleen Kelly and a psychic research team claimed having recorded about 60 different ghost voices during several investigations of the stately home. Eerie images have also been captured of orbs and strange figures, one seemingly in Inca garb, inside buildings and around the grounds. A common sighting by staff at night is of a man in a wheelchair being pushed across the upstairs veranda. Another ghost is a small boy who moves furniture around downstairs and has even taken a chair into another room. Number 3. Bloody Bucket Bridge. Waikula, Florida is the location of the so-called Bloody Bucket Bridge. Not its official name, but a local moniker based on a chilling legend. The haunting of Bloody Bucket Bridge is said to originate from when a freed slave woman began work as a midwife after the Civil War. Various stories describe that the woman may have been driven insane with anger by the injustice of her own children having been taken from her during her slave years. The story goes that the midwife began dispatching the babies in her care, that she would stifle the infants immediately after birth and then conceal their remains beside a nearby stream. She purportedly saved the blood from the deliveries in buckets which she emptied into the stream from atop the bridge, leading to its naming as Bloody Bucket Bridge. Since the 1800s, local residents have passed down a narrative which describes the water under the Bloody Bucket Bridge flowing red. Some report that distressed cries of babies can be heard when standing on the bridge. As with many local myths, the stories have not been verified by historical records. Some argue that the bridge derives its grim reputation from a bar named the Bloody Bucket, which operated in Wakula during the 1930s and 1940s. Number 2. The Devil's Chair. Founded by spiritualist medium George Colby and home to many psychic practitioners, Cassadaga, Florida, styles itself as the paranormal capital of the world. It's said that Colby planned to create the township after a message from the spirit of a Native American man called Seneca during a seance. Located inside the Cassadaga Lake Helen Cemetery, the Devil's Chair is a low brick seat positioned between two gravestones and is a strangely unsettling sight. It is reputed to be a favourite haunt of a spirit called Old Scratch, who will materialise next to you if you stay seated there long enough. It's also said that if you leave a full can of beer on the chair at sunset, it will be empty by morning. Teenage dares and legend-tripping activity around the Devil's Chair is so rife in Cassadaga that the cemetery is routinely locked up at night and features posters with dire warnings around its walls. Number 1. Floridian Cryptids. The legendary Gator Man is a terrifying creature with a man's upper torso and the lower half of a scaly fish. There are 2 reported sightings of the Gator Man between 2010 and 2011. A college student living near St. John's River said she first noticed oversized bite marks on a manatee in 2010. A year later, she observed a blackish figure standing under some cypress trees that made strange sounds and moved in such a threatening way that she was scared for her life. Bigfoot, who is thought to inhabit the rainy mountains of Washington and Oregon, has a relative in Florida known as the skunk ape. Sightings of the skunk ape are so frequent that a skunk ape research headquarters has been established. Like Gator Man, also inhabiting the Everglades, the skunk ape reputedly gives off a noxious smell that causes a gagging reflex in any observer. It also has a huge stature, standing at least 6 to 7 feet tall and weighing over 450 pounds. Investigation of the skunk ape phenomena began in 1959 when 3 Boy Scouts emerged screaming from the Ocala National Forest. They declared that they had been pursued from the woodland by a large, hairy and putrid-smelling ape. Years later, in January 1974, the Hialeah Gardens Police Department flew a helicopter to inspect US Highway 27 after an eyewitness reported seeing a 7-foot-tall hairy ape wandering near the highway. The sighting attracted wide local media coverage, particularly as one of the responding police officers claimed that he also saw the creature.